The huge room fell silent as Commander Vex's tar walked to the front. His forearms moved like a dancer as he turned on the giant screen. Hundreds of young aliens sat in their seats watching him with wide eyes. Some had fur, others had scales, and a few looked like walking crystals. They came from all over the galaxy to learn at the best military school in space. Jiwan sat in the back row, looking just like any other cadet in his blue uniform. His black hair was cut short, and his dark eyes watched everything with quiet interest. Next to him sat his roommate, a being made of clear crystal that sparkled when light hit it. The crystal being was shaking with fear, making tiny ringing sounds. "Today we talk about the most dangerous places in the galaxy," Commander Vextar said. His voice was deep and scary. "We call them Deathworlds." The screen showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked certain star systems. The red color looked like blood against the dark space. Many of the young aliens made worried sounds when they saw how many red dots there were. "These planets will kill you," the commander said. "They have gravity so strong it will crush your bones into powder. The air will burn your lungs. The weather can destroy entire cities in minutes. And the animals?" He paused and looked around the room. "The animals hunt in groups and show no mercy." A cadet with blue skin raised one of her 6 arms. "How do we know they are so dangerous, sir?" Commander Vextar's eyes turned dark. "Because we have tried to land on them. We sent our best soldiers with the strongest armor and the most advanced weapons. Most never came back. Those who did return were broken in mind and body. They spoke of horrors beyond imagination." The crystal being next to Jiwan was shaking so hard now that other cadets turned to look. Jiwan put a gentle hand on his roommate's shoulder to calm him down. "The gravity on these worlds can be 5 times stronger than what most of you are used to," the commander continued. "Imagine trying to walk when every step feels like carrying 5 of yourselves on your back. Your hearts cannot pump blood fast enough. Your bones crack under the pressure." A reptile-like cadet asked, "What about protective suits, sir? Even our best environmental suits fail on Deathworlds. The atmospheric pressure can crush them like paper. The temperature changes are so extreme that metal becomes brittle and breaks. And that is just the beginning." Commander Vextar touched the screen and images appeared. They showed twisted metal and broken equipment scattered across alien landscapes. "The worst part is not the environment," he said quietly. "It is the life forms. Evolution on these worlds creates monsters. Predators with teeth like swords and claws that can cut through spaceship hulls. They move faster than our vehicles and hunt with intelligence that rivals our own." The room was so quiet now that Jiwan could hear his own heartbeat. Many cadets looked sick. Some had turned colors that showed fear in their species. Commander Vextar pointed to the largest red dot on the map. "This is the worst of all Deathworlds. We call it Deathworld Prime. The 3rd planet in a system the locals call Sol. It should be a dead rock, but our sensors detect massive electromagnetic activity. The radiation from its star should have sterilized the surface long ago." He pulled up data charts showing impossible numbers. Surface temperatures that range from deadly cold to burning hot. Atmospheric pressure that changes without warning. Tectonic activity that makes the ground split open and swallow everything above it. And the commander shook his head. "Storms with winds fast enough to tear apart buildings." "Is there any life on this world, sir?" asked a cadet with tentacles instead of arms. "Our long-range sensors detect movement, but it makes no sense. Nothing should be able to survive there. We believe it might be some kind of automated machinery left behind by an extinct civilization. Or perhaps the signals are just electromagnetic interference from all the radiation." Commander Vextar's expression became very serious. "Listen carefully, all of you. Under no circumstances will any cadet approach a Deathworld during training missions. This is not a suggestion. This is a direct order from Galactic Command itself." He touched the screen again and numbers appeared. "In our entire recorded history, we have attempted to land on Deathworlds exactly 437 times. 424 of those expeditions resulted in total loss of life within one local day. The few survivors we recovered were changed. They spoke of walking nightmares and begged us never to return to those cursed places." The crystal being was now making high-pitched whining sounds. Other cadets were whispering prayers in their native languages. Some had covered their eyes and refused to look at the screen. "The mortality rate for any expedition to a Deathworld is 97% in the first local solar period," Commander Vextar said. "For those who somehow survive longer, the rate climbs to 99% by the end of one local rotation period. No one has ever survived a full seasonal cycle on a Deathworld. A brave cadet with green fur asked, "What happens to those who do survive the first day, sir?" The commander was quiet for a long moment. "They go insane. The constant fear of death, the endless struggle against an environment that wants to kill them, the knowledge that massive predators could attack at any moment. Their minds break. We have recordings of their final transmissions. They speak of giving up hope and welcoming death as a release from suffering." Commander Vextar turned off the images and faced the cadets directly. "This is why these worlds are forbidden. We mark them in red as a warning to all civilized species. To approach one is not brave. It is suicide." The room was filled with the sounds of frightened beings. Some cadets were crying in their species' way. Others sat frozen with terror. The weight of the commander's words settled over them like a heavy blanket. "Are there any questions?" Commander Vextar asked. For several minutes no one moved. Then slowly a hand went up in the back row. It belonged to the quiet human cadet who had been sitting calmly through the entire presentation. "Yes, Cadet G1?" G1 stood up with a small smile on his face. His voice was steady and curious, not frightened like the others. "Commander, you mentioned the third planet in the Sol system. What is its local designation?" Commander Vextar looked at his datapad. His face showed disgust as he read the information. "The local designation is..." He paused and pronounced the word carefully. "Earth." Jiwon's smile grew wider. Around him, other cadets held their breath, waiting for his response. The human looked completely relaxed, as if they had been discussing the weather instead of the most dangerous place in the known galaxy. "That is very interesting, sir," Jiwon said in a cheerful voice. "You see, we humans have a different name for Deathworld Prime." The entire room turned to stare at him. Commander Vextar's forearms stopped moving. "What do you call it, Cadet?" Jiwon's smile became a grin. "We call it home." The silence that followed was complete. Then all at once the room exploded into chaos. Aliens were shouting, screaming, and making sounds of pure terror. Some fainted. Others ran for the exits. The crystal being next to Jiwon shattered into 1,000 pieces from shock. Commander Vextar stood frozen, staring at the human cadet who had just claimed to come from the most dangerous world in the galaxy. In all his years of teaching, he had never imagined this moment. A survivor of Deathworld Prime was sitting in his classroom, smiling like he had just shared a pleasant joke. The impossible had just become reality. The news spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. Within 2 hours, every being on the station knew about the human cadet who claimed to come from Deathworld Prime. Some called him crazy. Others said he was lying, but most were simply terrified. G1 walked through the hallways as normal, going to his afternoon classes. Other cadets pressed themselves against the walls when he passed, afraid to get too close. They whispered behind him in dozens of different languages, but the fear in their voices was the same in every tongue. "He cannot be telling the truth," said a cadet with purple scales. "Nothing lives on Earth? Our sensors proved that years ago." "Maybe he is some kind of experiment," whispered another with multiple eyes. "A weapon designed to look like a normal being." Jiwon ignored the whispers and went to his military history class. The professor, a tall being with gray skin, stopped talking when Jiwon entered the room. All the other students turned to stare. The silence was so thick it felt heavy. "Please take your seat." "Cadet Jiwon," the professor said carefully, as if speaking to a dangerous animal. After classes ended, Jiwon received a message on his communication device. He was ordered to report to the dean's office immediately. The message was marked with the highest priority level. The dean's office was on the top floor of the academy's main tower. Jiwon had never been there before. The walls were covered with awards and pictures of famous graduates. Dean Morthak stood behind his massive desk, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. Dean Morthak was a Dreknari, one of the oldest and most respected species in the galaxy. His reptilian body was covered in dark green scales that reflected light like metal. When he was angry or worried, the scales would rattle together, making a sound like rain on metal. "Sit down, Cadet," the dean said without looking at him. His scales were rattling loudly. Jiwon sat in the chair across from the desk. He folded his hands in his lap and waited patiently. The dean continued pacing for several minutes before finally stopping and turning to face him. "Impossible," Dean Morthak said, his voice low and dangerous. "What you claimed in class today is completely impossible." "With respect, sir, I think you might be wrong about that." Jiwan replied calmly. The Dean's scales rattled even louder. Our deep space sensors have studied that system for over 50 years. We have detailed maps of every planet, every moon, every asteroid. Earth shows no signs of intelligent life. No cities, no technology, no communications. The radiation levels alone should have sterilized the surface millions of years ago. Jiwan tilted his head thoughtfully. Perhaps your sensors need to be checked, sir. Earth currently has more than 8 billion humans living on it. We have thousands of cities, some with populations larger than most space stations. The Dean stopped pacing and stared at him. 8 billion? That is more beings than live on 10 normal worlds combined. Yes, sir, and that is just humans. We share the planet with millions of other species. Share? The Dean's voice rose to almost a shout. You mean you coexist with the deadly predators that evolved on that nightmare world? Jiwan smiled slightly. Some of them, yes. Others we have domesticated over thousands of years. My family keeps wolves as pets. We call them dogs. My sister Mina has 3 of them, all larger than most Academy security robots. Dean Morthak sat down heavily in his chair. The metal frame groaned under his weight. Wolves? You keep predatory pack hunters as pets? They are very loyal and friendly, Jiwan explained. Children play with them all the time. My cousin's daughter rides on the back of their largest dog like it was a small vehicle. The door to the office opened, and Professor Yalin entered. She was the Academy's leading expert on alien biology and evolution. Her tentacle-covered body moved like water as she approached the desk. Her 3 eyes were focused intently on Jiwan. I came as soon as I heard, Professor Yalin said. Her voice bubbled like liquid through her breathing apparatus. Dean Morthak, if what this cadet claims is true, it changes everything we know about life in the universe. The Dean gestured to another chair. Professor, please help me understand this. How could any species evolve on Earth and survive? Professor Yalin's tentacles writhed with excitement, though her eyes showed fear. Cadet Jiwan, please describe your homeworld's environmental conditions in detail. Jiwan thought for a moment, trying to choose simple words. Well, the temperature changes depending on where you are and what time of year it is. In my hometown in Korea, it gets as cold as -20 degrees in winter and as hot as 40 degrees in summer. Both aliens made sounds of horror. 40 degrees? Professor Yalin gasped. That temperature would cook most species alive. Really? Jiwan looked surprised. We consider that a normal hot day. Some places on Earth get much hotter. My friend Hyunwoo runs marathons in desert areas where the temperature reaches 50 degrees or more. Impossible, the Dean whispered. No biological entity can function at those temperatures. We also get regular storms, Jiwan continued. Sometimes the wind speeds reach over 200 kilometers per hour. Last year, a typhoon hit near my home. We just stayed inside for a few days until it passed. Professor Yalin's tentacles had stopped moving. She was staring at Jiwan like he was speaking in an unknown language. 200 kilometers per hour winds would destroy most buildings. Some do get damaged, Jiwan admitted. But we build them to be strong, and we always rebuild afterward. What about tectonic activity? The professor asked weakly. Oh, you mean earthquakes? Jiwan nodded. Yes, we get those fairly often. The ground shakes and sometimes cracks open. It can be dangerous, but we have warning systems and emergency procedures. The ground cracks open? Dean Morthak's scales were now rattling so hard they sounded like a drum roll. Sometimes. My girlfriend Soo-young is a marine biologist. She studies ocean life. She swims in water with creatures that could easily swallow this entire office. She swims voluntarily with giant predators? Professor Yalin sounded like she might faint. Whales are not really predators, Jiwan explained. They are gentle giants mostly, though there are some dangerous things in the ocean, sharks for example. But shark attacks are quite rare. You are more likely to be struck by lightning. Lightning? The Dean asked in a strangled voice. Electrical discharges from the sky during storms. They can strike anywhere without warning and carry enough power to kill instantly. Professor Yalin had turned a pale color that indicated shock in her species. And you just accept this? Jiwan shrugged. It is part of life. Every place has its dangers. You learn to be careful and take proper precautions. The Dean and Professor looked at each other in silence for a long moment. Finally, Dean Morthak spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Cadet Jiwan, if what you are telling us is true, then humans are the most resilient species ever discovered. You describe conditions that would kill our strongest warriors within hours. and you speak of them as if they were minor inconveniences. I suppose it is all about what you are used to, Ji-won replied. My brother Do-hyun always says that difficult conditions make you stronger. Your brother? He also lives on Earth? Yes, sir. He is a mountain climber. He climbs peaks that are over 8,000 meters high, where the air is so thin that most people cannot breathe. Professor Yalin made a gurgling sound that indicated extreme distress in her species. 8,000 meters? At that altitude, there is barely any atmosphere at all. It requires special equipment and training, Ji-won explained. But hundreds of people do it every year. Some of them are quite elderly. Dean Morthak stood up slowly, his legs shaking. This changes everything, Professor. If humans have truly evolved on what we classified as the most dangerous world in the galaxy, then our entire understanding of life and evolution needs to be reconsidered. We need to contact Galactic Command immediately, Professor Yalin said. This discovery could revolutionize science. But first, the Dean said, looking directly at Ji-won, we need proof. We need evidence that your claims are real. Ji-won nodded respectfully. I understand your doubts, sir. If it would help, I could contact my family. They would be happy to provide whatever proof you need. You can communicate with Earth from here? Professor Yalin asked in amazement. Of course. I call home every week. My mother Yoonji worries if she does not hear from me regularly. The Dean sat back down with a heavy thud. Contact Galactic Command, Professor. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention. As Professor Yalin left to make the communication, Dean Morthak stared at Ji-won with a mixture of awe and terror. If you are telling the truth, Cadet, then humans may be the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Ji-won looked genuinely confused. Dangerous? We are quite peaceful, actually. We prefer cooperation to conflict. The Dean's laugh sounded more like a growl. Peaceful beings who evolved on a world that kills everything else that tries to land on it. Do you understand how terrifying that is to the rest of us? For the first time, Ji-won seemed to realize the impact of his revelation. I suppose I never thought about it that way, sir. 3 days passed before the ships arrived. Ji-won was eating breakfast in the academy cafeteria when the emergency alarm sounded. All cadets were ordered to report to the main assembly hall immediately. As he walked through the corridors, Ji-won noticed that the other students still avoided him. But now they stared with curiosity instead of just fear. The assembly hall was packed with every cadet, instructor, and staff member on the station. At the front of the room stood a figure that made even the senior officers look nervous. Admiral Kethmori of the Hegemony Defense Corps was the most decorated military leader in the galaxy. His tall, silver-skinned form commanded absolute attention from everyone present. Admiral Kethmori's species was ancient and powerful. They had been exploring space when most other races were still learning to make fire. His people had discovered and mapped more worlds than any other civilization. When they declared something dangerous, everyone listened. Cadets and faculty, the Admiral began, his voice carrying easily through the large room. We are here to investigate claims that challenge our fundamental understanding of life in the universe. His silver eyes scanned the crowd until they found Ji-won. Cadet Ji-won, please step forward. Ji-won walked to the front of the room. Hundreds of alien eyes followed his every movement. Some cadets held their breath as if expecting him to suddenly become dangerous. You claim to be from the third planet of the Sol system, Admiral Kethmori said. The world we have classified as Deathworld Prime. Yes, sir, Ji-won replied calmly. I was born in Seoul in the Korean peninsula. A murmur ran through the crowd. Many of the aliens had never heard these strange place names before. We cannot simply accept your word, Cadet, the Admiral continued. The implications of your claims are too significant. If humans truly evolved on a death world, it would change everything we know about biology, evolution, and the limits of life itself. Ji-won nodded with understanding. I realize how hard this must be to believe, sir. Therefore, Admiral Kethmori announced, we will conduct a scientific expedition to the Sol system. We will observe this Earth with our own sensors and determine the truth. The room erupted in shocked voices. Several cadets made sounds of terror. The idea of voluntarily going to a death world was beyond their comprehension. Sir, Ji-won said, raising his hand politely, if you are planning to visit Earth, I would be happy to help arrange proper introductions. My sister Hana works for our diplomatic corps. She handles first contact protocols. Admiral Kethmori's expression showed surprise. You have diplomatic protocols for meeting alien species? Of course, sir. We have been expecting contact with other civilizations for many years. We prepared for this possibility. Dr. Nexara, the expedition's chief scientist, stepped forward. She was a member of the Zethkari race, beings known for their brilliant minds and careful research methods. Her purple skin was marked with the ritual scars that showed her high academic rank. Cadet Jiwan, Dr. Nexara said carefully, "If we were to attempt such a mission, what precautions would you recommend for our safety?" Jiwan thought about this seriously. "Honestly, Doctor, I think you might be overthinking the dangers. My cousin Yaren works as a tour guide in the mountain regions. She regularly takes groups of visitors hiking through areas where large predators live freely. Most of the time, if you follow basic safety rules and respect the local wildlife, you will be perfectly fine." "Large predators?" Dr. Nexara's voice cracked slightly. "What kind of predators?" "Bears, mostly. They can weigh up to 800 kilograms and run at speeds of 50 kilometers per hour. Then there are mountain lions, which are smaller but incredibly fast and agile hunters." The alien scientist's skin turned a lighter shade of purple, which indicated fear in her species. "And your cousin guides tourists through territory where these monsters roam?" "They are not monsters," Jiwan said with a slight smile. "They are beautiful creatures. Most of the time they avoid humans anyway. Bears usually only attack if they are surprised or protecting their young. Mountain lions prefer to hunt smaller prey." "Smaller prey?" squeaked a cadet from the back of the room. "Deer, rabbits, small mammals. Occasionally they might take livestock, but attacks on humans are extremely rare." Admiral Kethamori had been listening to this exchange with growing amazement. "You speak of these deadly predators as if they were merely inconvenient neighbors. In a way they are," Jiwan replied. "We share the planet with them. We have learned to coexist." Dr. Nexara pulled out her datapad and began taking notes frantically. "What other life forms should we be aware of?" "Well, in the oceans, there are whales that can grow to over 30 meters in length. Some weigh more than 200 tons. Then there are great white sharks, which can be 6 meters long with teeth designed for tearing flesh." Several aliens in the audience made distressed sounds. One cadet fainted and had to be carried out by medical staff. "But again," Jiwan continued, "these animals are not usually dangerous to humans if you know what you are doing. My girlfriend Su-Young swims with marine life all the time for her research. She has never been seriously injured." "Your girlfriend voluntarily enters water with 30-meter predators?" Dr. Nexara looked like she might be sick. "Whales are not predators in the traditional sense," Jiwan explained patiently. "They eat very small organisms. Though there are killer whales which do hunt larger prey, but even they rarely bother humans." Admiral Kethmori raised his hand for silence. The room immediately became quiet. "Cadet Jiwan, you describe your world as if it were a normal, habitable planet. Yet our sensors indicate radiation levels that should be lethal, atmospheric conditions that should be toxic, and gravitational forces that should crush most life forms. Perhaps your sensors are calibrated for different types of life," Jiwan suggested. "Humans have adapted to Earth's conditions over millions of years of evolution." "Adapted?" Dr. Nexara leaned forward with intense interest. "How specifically have you adapted?" Jiwan shrugged. "We developed strong bones to handle the gravity. Our blood carries oxygen efficiently in the atmosphere. Our skin protects us from radiation. We regulate our body temperature automatically." "Automatically?" The doctor's voice rose with excitement. "Your species has autonomous thermal regulation. Yes, we sweat when it is hot and shiver when it is cold. Our bodies adjust to different temperatures without conscious thought." Dr. Nexara was writing notes so fast her hand was blurring. "Remarkable. Most species require artificial assistance for temperature control in anything but the most ideal conditions." Admiral Kethmori made his decision. "We will proceed with the expedition. Dr. Nexara, prepare 3 reconnaissance vessels with our most advanced life support and defensive systems." "3 ships, sir?" the doctor asked. "If we lose one to the hostile environment, we need backups. This is still a death world regardless of what the human claims." Jiwan cleared his throat politely. "Admiral, if I may suggest, you might want to contact Earth before you arrive. My mother Yunji gets very upset when unexpected guests show up without warning. She likes to prepare proper meals for visitors." The Admiral stared at him. "Your mother prepares meals on a death world?" "She is an excellent cook," Jiwan said proudly. "She makes the best kimchi in our neighborhood. My brother Doyan always says that her cooking could make anyone feel at home, even aliens from space." "Aliens from space?" Admiral Kethmori repeated slowly. "Well, yes, sir. That would be you." Dr. Nexara looked up from her notes. Cadet, do your people have any special preparation rituals for receiving visitors? Not really. We usually offer food and drink to guests. It is considered polite. My family will probably want to give you a tour of the area and show you some of our local attractions. Attractions? The doctor's voice was faint. On a Deathworld? Seoul has many beautiful temples and palaces. The mountains nearby have excellent hiking trails. If you visit in spring, the cherry blossoms are spectacular. Admiral Kethmori took a deep breath. Very well, Cadet. You will accompany the expedition as our guide and translator. I would be honored, sir. Should I contact my family to let them know we are coming? Please do, and ask them. The Admiral paused, still struggling with the concept. Ask them what food would be appropriate for first contact with alien species. Jiwon grinned. I am sure my mother will be delighted to cook for you. She loves having new people try her recipes. As the assembly dispersed, aliens throughout the room whispered nervously about the upcoming mission. For the first time in galactic history, a military expedition was being planned not to avoid a death world, but to visit one as invited guests. Admiral Kethmori remained behind, staring at the empty space where Jiwon had been standing. Dr. Nexara, he said quietly, what have we gotten ourselves into? The scientist was still scribbling notes. If the human is telling the truth, sir, we are about to make the most important discovery in the history of our civilization. And if he is wrong? Then we are about to become the largest group of beings ever to die on a death world simultaneously. Admiral Kethmori nodded grimly. Prepare the ships, and make sure our life insurance policies are current. The 3 ships that left the Academy were the most advanced vessels in the Galactic Hegemony fleet. Each one carried shields strong enough to protect against stellar radiation and armor thick enough to survive asteroid impacts. The crews wore the best environmental suits available, with enough life support to last for months in the harshest conditions. Admiral Kethmori stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the stars streak past as they traveled toward the Sol system. Around him, the crew worked quietly at their stations, checking and rechecking their equipment. Everyone knew they were heading to the most dangerous place in the known galaxy. Status report, the Admiral commanded. Science Officer Dalvin looked up from his console. His green skin had turned pale with worry. Sir, we are receiving preliminary data from our long-range sensors. The readings are disturbing. Show me. The main screen filled with numbers and charts. Dalvin pointed to the atmospheric analysis with one of his forearms. The oxygen concentration in Earth's atmosphere is 21%. That level would be toxic to most of our species. Admiral Kethmori studied the data with growing concern. What else? The background radiation from their star is intense. Without proper shielding, most beings would develop fatal radiation poisoning within days of exposure. Jiwon, who had been sitting quietly in a corner of the bridge, looked up from the book he was reading. Really? I had no idea the sun was dangerous to other species. We just use sunscreen when we spend long periods outside. The entire bridge crew turned to stare at him. Science Officer Dalvin made a choking sound. Sunscreen, Dalvin asked weakly. A cream that protects your skin from radiation burns. Jiwon explained helpfully. Children learn to use it before they can walk properly. My friend Taehyun is studying to become a doctor. He says human skin is remarkably good at repairing radiation damage naturally. Naturally. The science officer's voice cracked. Your bodies repair radiation damage without medical intervention? Within reason, yes. Though too much exposure can still cause problems. That is why we have safety guidelines. Captain Veloth, the fleet commander, stepped forward. She was a member of the warrior Krell-Nari race, beings known for their courage in battle. Even she looked nervous. Cadet Jiwon, what other hazards should we be aware of? Jiwon thought for a moment. Well, depending on where we land, there might be weather to consider. This time of year, Korea sometimes gets strong storms. Nothing too serious, but the wind can be quite strong. How strong? Captain Veloth asked. Maybe 100 kilometers per hour, sometimes more during typhoons. The captain's armored scales rattled with shock. 100 kilometers per hour? That would destroy most structures. Some buildings do get damaged, Jiwon admitted, but we build them to withstand normal weather patterns. My uncle Namjoon always says that strong winds just mean you need stronger foundations. Admiral Kethmori was studying the tactical displays when an alarm sounded. Communications Officer Rixal turned from her station with excitement. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the Sol system. From Earth? The Admiral's voice showed surprise. Yes, sir. It is on a frequency we have never encountered before, but our computers are translating it automatically. Put it through. The speakers crackled to life, and a warm female voice filled the bridge. She spoke in perfect galactic standard, though with an accent none of them had heard before. Greetings, Galactic Hegemony vessels. This is Director Park Gina of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. We have been tracking your approach and are honored by your visit to our system. The bridge crew looked at each other in amazement. The beings on the Deathworld not only knew they were coming, but had been watching them with their own technology. Admiral Keth Mori activated the communication system. This is Admiral Keth Mori of the Hegemony Defense Corps. We request permission to enter your space for scientific observation. Permission granted, Admiral. We have prepared landing coordinates and look forward to meeting you in person. Be advised that we have arranged a welcome ceremony appropriate for first contact between our species. Jiwan leaned forward and spoke into the communication pickup. Gina, this is Jiwan. Is my family doing well? The voice on the other end became warm and friendly. Jiwan, your mother has been cooking for 3 days straight. She is very excited to meet your new friends. Your sister Mina wants to know if any of the visitors would like to see her veterinary clinic. Admiral Keth Mori stared at Jiwan. They were expecting us? I sent a message ahead when we left the academy, Jiwan explained. I thought it would be polite to give them time to prepare. Your sister mentioned a veterinary clinic, Dr. Nexara said, joining the conversation from the science station. What animals does she treat? All kinds, Jiwan replied. Dogs, cats, birds, farm animals. Last month she performed surgery on a horse that had been injured in an accident. Surgery? On a large animal? Without losing the patient? Of course. Mina is very skilled. She graduated at the top of her class. Director Park's voice came through the speakers again. Admiral, we have prepared accommodations for your crews if you wish to stay overnight. Our guest facilities are equipped with environmental controls that should be compatible with most known species. You have guest facilities prepared for alien visitors? Admiral Keth Mori asked in disbelief. We have been planning for this possibility for many years, Director Park replied. We believe that meeting other civilizations is an inevitable part of our species' development. As they approached Earth, the alien crews watched their screens with fascination and terror. Their sensors detected massive cities covering the continents, with structures reaching high into the atmosphere. Vehicles moved across the surface in organized patterns and aircraft filled the skies. Sir, Science Officer Dalvin reported, I am detecting thousands of aircraft in Earth's atmosphere. They appear to be moving in coordinated flight patterns. Military vessels? Captain Veloth asked with concern. No, Jiwan said, looking at the display. Those are commercial airlines. People use them to travel long distances quickly. My cousin Yaren flies them regularly for her tour guide business. People fly through the atmosphere for transportation? Dr. Nexara sounded amazed. Every day, millions of passengers travel by air annually. It is very safe and efficient. The doctor was taking notes frantically. How do you handle the atmospheric pressure changes? The stress on biological systems must be enormous. Airplane cabins are pressurized, Jiwan explained. Though some people do experience minor discomfort during takeoff and landing, children learn to pop their ears to equalize pressure. Children? The doctor's voice rose to a squeak. You allow developing offspring to experience these pressure changes? Flying with children is very common. Families take vacations together all the time. Admiral Keth Mori was studying the tactical displays when another alarm sounded. What now? Sir, Communications Officer Rixal said, we are receiving multiple signals from Earth's surface. They appear to be entertainment broadcasts. Entertainment? Music, visual programs, news reports. Thousands of different channels operating simultaneously across the planet. Jiwan nodded. Earth has a very active media industry. People enjoy watching shows and listening to music from around the world. Around the world? Captain Veloth looked confused. Different countries and cultures. Earth has about 200 separate nations, each with their own languages, customs, and governments. The bridge fell silent. Finally, Admiral Keth Mori spoke in a stunned voice. You have 200 separate governments on one planet? And they coexist peacefully? Mostly, Jiwan said. There are occasionally disagreements, but we have international organizations that help resolve conflicts through discussion rather than warfare. Discussion? Captain Veloth seemed unable to comprehend this concept. Her species had achieved unity only through conquest. As Earth grew larger on their screens, the alien crews could see the planet's swirling white clouds, deep blue oceans, and green and brown continents. Despite all their fears about the Deathworld, they had to admit it was beautiful. Incoming transmission from the surface, and Officer Rixall announced. "This is Sol Approach Control," said a calm male voice. "Galactic Hegemony vessels, you are cleared for landing at coordinates 37.55 north, 126.97 east. Weather conditions are favorable with light winds and clear skies. They have air traffic control for alien spacecraft?" Admiral Kethmori asked weakly. "They have air traffic control for everything that flies," Jiwan said. "Safety is very important when you have so many aircraft sharing the same airspace." Dr. Nexara looked up from her sensors. "Admiral, I am detecting no hostile intentions from the surface. In fact, I am reading what appears to be a large gathering of beings arranged in welcome formations." "A welcoming committee," Jiwan explained with a smile. "My brother Dohyun probably organized it. He loves meeting new people." As their ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, Admiral Kethmori realized that everything they thought they knew about Deathworlds was about to change forever. "Prepare for landing," he ordered. "And may whatever gods are listening protect us all." The landing site chosen by the Terran Diplomatic Corps was a beautiful meadow, surrounded by rolling hills and tall mountains. Cherry trees lined the edges of the field, their pink flowers dancing in the gentle breeze. To the alien crews, however, the peaceful scene looked like a nightmare waiting to happen. Admiral Kethmori stood at the window of his ship, watching the mountains with suspicion. His instruments were warning him about dozens of potential dangers. The atmospheric pressure readings made him nervous. The temperature fluctuations seemed extreme. Even the wind patterns looked threatening to someone who had spent his entire life in carefully controlled environments. "Sir," Science Officer Dalvin reported from his station, "our environmental sensors are detecting multiple life forms approaching the landing area." "Hostile?" Captain Veloth asked, her hand moving toward the weapons controls. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be moving in organized groups, but without apparent weapons." Admiral Kethmori watched through the ship's cameras as hundreds of humans gathered in the meadow. Many of them were holding colorful banners and flags. Children ran between the adults, laughing and playing games. It looked more like a festival than a military reception. "Admiral," Communications Officer Rixall announced, "we are receiving another transmission from the surface." "Put it through." "Welcome to Earth. Honored guests," came the warm voice of Director Park Jina. "We have prepared a traditional Korean welcome ceremony for you. Please exit your vessels when you feel ready. Our medical teams are standing by in case you need assistance with our atmospheric conditions." Admiral Kethmori took a deep breath and checked his environmental suit one final time. The suit was the most advanced piece of personal protection equipment ever created. It could keep him alive in the vacuum of space, protect him from deadly radiation, and filter out poisonous gases. Even so, he felt nervous about stepping onto the surface of a Deathworld. "All teams, prepare for surface operations," he commanded. "Maintain full environmental protection at all times." The airlock opened with a soft hiss, and Admiral Kethmori stepped onto Earth for the first time. Behind him came Dr. Nexara, Captain Veloth, and a dozen other crew members, all sealed inside their protective suits. The first thing that struck him was how normal everything seemed. The sky was blue with white clouds drifting peacefully overhead. The air looked clean and clear. Birds flew in patterns that seemed almost artistic. It was hard to believe this was the same planet their sensors had marked as a death trap. A group of humans approached them across the meadow. Leading the group was a tall woman in a formal blue dress. Her black hair was arranged in an elegant style, and she walked with the confidence of someone accustomed to important meetings. "Admiral Kethmori," she said, bowing in what appeared to be a respectful greeting. "I am Director Park Jina. On behalf of all humanity, welcome to Earth." Admiral Kethmori activated his suit's external speakers. "Thank you for receiving us, Director Park. We are honored by your hospitality." Behind Director Park stood a diverse group of humans. Admiral Kethmori was amazed by how different they looked from each other, yet they all seemed to belong to the same species. Their skin colors ranged from very pale to very dark. Their features were varied, but they all moved with the same easy confidence. "Admiral," Director Park continued, I would like you to meet Dr. Lee Sang-woo, our leading expert on evolutionary biology. He is very excited to discuss Earth's development with your scientific team. Dr. Lee stepped forward and bowed politely. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Admiral, we have prepared presentations about our planet's history and development. We hope this information will be helpful for your research. Dr. Nexara moved closer, her tentacles writhing with scientific curiosity despite her obvious fear. Dr. Lee, we are particularly interested in how life evolved under such harsh conditions. Dr. Lee smiled warmly. Harsh? I suppose it depends on your perspective. To us, Earth represents 4 billion years of perfect adaptation. Every challenge our planet presented became an opportunity for life to grow stronger and more diverse. Ji-won appeared from the crowd, no longer wearing his academy uniform, but dressed in casual clothes that looked comfortable and practical. Admiral, I would like you to meet my family. A woman in her 50s approached them with a warm smile. She carried a large basket filled with food containers. I am Yoonji, Ji-won's mother. I have prepared some traditional Korean dishes for our guests. I hope you will be able to taste them through your protective suits. Admiral Kethamori looked at the food with interest and concern. Mrs. Yoonji, we appreciate the gesture, but our digestive systems may not be compatible with Earth foods. Oh, we prepared for that, said a young woman joining the group. I am Mina, Ji-won's sister. I am a veterinarian, and I have worked with our biochemist to analyze your species' nutritional requirements. We have prepared foods that should be safe for you to consume. Dr. Nexara was amazed. You studied our biology and prepared compatible foods? How did you obtain our biological data? Your people have been observing our system for decades, Director Park explained. We have been observing you as well. We learned about your species' requirements from your ship emissions and communication patterns. Captain Veloth stepped forward, her military training making her suspicious. You have been watching us without our knowledge. Only in the same way you have been watching us, Director Park replied diplomatically. We believe that mutual understanding is essential for peaceful contact between species. A young man approached the group with several large, furry animals walking beside him. Admiral Kethamori's threat detection systems immediately activated, warning him about dangerous predators in close proximity. Everyone, this is my brother Do-hyun, Ji-won said proudly. He brought some of our family dogs to meet you. The predators Admiral Kethamori's sensors had detected turned out to be 3 large dogs with friendly faces and wagging tails. Children were running around them, hugging them and playing games. These are domesticated wolves, Dr. Nexara asked in a shaking voice. Their ancestors were wolves, Do-hyun explained, but these are golden retrievers. They are bred specifically to be gentle with children and strangers. One of the dogs approached Admiral Kethamori and sat down, looking up at him with curious eyes. The Admiral's threat sensor showed no hostile intentions, only what appeared to be friendly interest. He likes you, Do-hyun said with a grin. His name is Buddy. He is very good with new people. As the day progressed, the alien visitors were taken on a tour of the surrounding area. They visited a local school where human children demonstrated their lessons. They saw a hospital where Dr. Mina showed them advanced medical equipment. They visited farms where humans grew food using sophisticated agricultural techniques. This is impossible, Dr. Nexara whispered to Admiral Kethamori as they watched children playing in a playground. These young humans are exposed to unfiltered sunlight, breathing unprocessed atmosphere, and showing no signs of distress. More than that, Admiral Kethamori replied. They appear to be thriving. During the evening ceremony, Director Park stood before the gathered crowds of humans and aliens. Today marks a historic moment in the development of both our species. We have learned that what appears dangerous to some can be home to others. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between Earth and the galactic hegemony. Admiral Kethamori removed his helmet for the first time since landing. The crowd of humans cheered as he breathed Earth's air directly. It was clean and fresh with a slight scent of flowers from the cherry trees. Director Park, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the evening air. We came here expecting to find a world of death and destruction. Instead, we have found a planet of incredible beauty and a species of remarkable strength and wisdom. Dr. Lee approached them with a data pad containing his research. Admiral, we have prepared a complete environmental analysis of Earth for your scientific teams. We hope it will help you understand how life can adapt to conditions that seem impossible. Dr. Lee, Admiral Kethamori said thoughtfully, I think the lesson here is not just about adaptation. It is about perspective. What we called a death world, you call paradise. Jawan's mother Yoonji brought out the evening meal, a feast of Korean dishes prepared specially for the occasion. For the first time in galactic history, aliens and humans sat down together to share food and stories. Admiral, Jiwan said as they ate, will you remove Earth from the Death World Registry? Admiral Kethmori looked around at the peaceful scene. Children playing with gentle dogs, families sharing meals under the stars, and two species learning to understand each other despite their vast differences. Cadet Jiwan, he said with a smile, I think we need to create an entirely new category. Earth will be reclassified as a human homeworld, and I will personally recommend to Galactic Command that we establish immediate diplomatic relations with your people. Why? Dr. Nexara asked curiously. Admiral Kethmori gestured toward the humans around them. Because if they can thrive on a planet that terrifies our greatest warriors, imagine what we could accomplish working together. As the alien ships prepared to depart the next morning, hundreds of humans gathered to say goodbye.